never thought I'd be the one to discover something so chilling, so terrifying that it still haunts me every time it rains. Like any other day, I was going about my usual routine. The rain was pouring heavily outside, creating a rhythmic pattern that echoed throughout my small apartment. The soft pitter-patter against my window was a comforting sound, a sound that was often my source of solace. On a whim, I decided to take a walk. Something about the rain always filled me with a strange sense of peace. I pulled on my boots, grabbed my umbrella, and stepped out into the downpour. I've always enjoyed these walks, the rain washing away the worries of the world. I walked past familiar sights, the small bakery at the corner, the old park where children usually played, but today, they all seemed deserted, as if the rain had washed away the life of the town. And then, I saw it. An old, dilapidated house that I had walked past countless times before. It was always there, looming at the end of the street. But today, something was different. The rain seemed to be falling harder around it. The grey skies above it seemed darker, and the house itself, it seemed more sinister. The house had always been abandoned, or so I thought. Its windows were boarded up, the paint was peeling off, and the garden was overgrown with weeds. But today, I noticed a faint light flickering from one of the upper windows, a light I had never seen before. As I stood there in the rain, staring at the house, a chill ran down my spine. I felt a sense of unease, a sense of dread that I couldn't shake off. I knew I should have turned back, gone back to the safety of my apartment, but something about that house drew me in. I should have turned around then, but the curiosity was too strong. I decided to take a closer look. As I approached the house, I felt a sudden chill, as if someone or something was watching me. The air seemed thicker, heavier, like my lungs were filling with an invisible dread. The house loomed before me, a silent sentinel of terror and secrets. I wandered around the house, my footsteps crunching on the gravel path, the only sound in the eerie silence. The wind whistled through the skeletal trees, their bare branches reaching out like gnarled hands. The moon, a pale and lonely orb, cast long, ominous shadows that danced and flickered across the facade of the house. As I made my way to the front door, my eyes were drawn to the strange symbols etched into the weathered wood. They were like nothing I'd ever seen before, a language lost in time, whispering of ancient rituals and forgotten evil. My fingers traced the cold, jagged lines, each one sending a shiver down my spine. From somewhere inside the house, a faint, eerie sound drifted out. It was like a soft moan, a sigh of despair that seemed to echo through the empty halls. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of fear that drowned out the rational voice in my head telling me to turn back. But despite the growing sense of unease, despite the chill that seemed to seep into my bones, I couldn't leave. I felt drawn to the house, pulled in by a force I couldn't explain or resist. I had to know what was inside. I had to uncover its secrets. I reached out, my hand trembling, and turned the doorknob. It was ice cold to the touch, like the heart of winter. The door creaked open, revealing darkness that seemed to swallow the light from outside. It was like standing on the edge of an abyss, staring into the unknown. With a deep breath, I steeled myself for what lay ahead. The door creaked open, revealing darkness that seemed to swallow the light from outside. I stepped inside, my heart pounding in my chest. The smell hit me first, a mixture of dampness and decay, like the house hadn't been touched in years. The air was thick and heavy, as if it was trying to suffocate me, to keep me from discovering the secrets hidden within these walls. The wallpaper was peeling off, revealing patches of mold that seemed to move and breathe in the dim light. The floor creaked with every step I took, echoing through the eerie silence that enveloped the house. As I ventured further into the abyss, I stumbled upon a child's shoe. It was worn out, its once vibrant color now faded into a murky brown. The sight of it sent a chill down my spine as I couldn't help but imagine a small foot slipping into it, unaware of the horrors that awaited. Next, I found a broken mirror. It lay shattered on the floor, its pieces spread out like a jigsaw puzzle. Each fragment reflected a distorted version of me, as if trying to show the terror that had started to take over my soul. But the most unsettling discovery was a diary I found tucked away in a dusty corner. Its pages were yellowed with age, filled with scribbles and incoherent ramblings. The words seemed to dance before my eyes, swirling into a chaotic storm that teased at the edges of my sanity. Just when I thought I had seen it all, a strange scratching sound started to come from upstairs. It was faint at first, like the scurrying of a mouse, but it grew louder and more frantic with each passing second. It echoed through the house, a chilling symphony that amplified the dread gnawing at my insides. I was about to leave when I heard it, a faint whisper from upstairs, like someone crying for help. The sound was so soft, so desperate, that it was almost drowned out by the pounding of my own heart. But I heard it, and it was enough to freeze me in my tracks, my blood turning to ice in my veins. Against my better judgment, I decided to investigate the sound. I climbed the creaky stairs, each step echoing in the silence. The air grew colder as I ascended, a draft of icy dread that seemed to seep into my bones. The sound was coming from the room at the end of the hall. As I pushed open the door, my heart pounded in my chest like a drum. The room was dimly lit, the only light coming from a flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling. The walls were covered in drawings, each more disturbing than the last. Faces twisted in fear, monstrous figures that seemed to leer at me from the paper. In the center of the room was a rocking chair, old and worn. It was rocking back and forth, the rhythm steady and unnerving. There was no breeze, no reason for it to move, and yet it did. The whispering grew louder, a chorus of hushed voices that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The whispers grew in volume, escalating into a chilling scream that echoed around the room. I felt a chill run down my spine, a sense of terror that rooted me to the spot. The room seemed to close in around me, the drawings on the wall seeming to come alive. The rocking chair continued its steady rhythm, the only sound in the otherwise silent room. I turned to leave, my heart pounding in my chest. I had to get out of there, had to escape the nightmare that had unfolded before me. But as I reached the door, I felt a cold hand grab my wrist. I screamed, trying to pull away, but the grip was like iron. I could feel the cold seeping into my skin, a feeling of dread that seemed to consume me. I screamed, trying to free myself from the icy grip, but it only tightened. My heart pounded in my chest like a wild drum, each beat echoing a desperate plea for escape. The air around me had grown cold and heavy, as if the very walls of the house were closing in, suffocating me. A chill ran down my spine, the kind that makes your hair stand on end, the kind that signals the presence of something not of this world. I could feel it watching me. I couldn't see it, but I knew it was there, lurking in the shadows, hiding in the corners. It was like a predator, stalking its prey, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I tried to move, to run, but it was as if I was stuck in a nightmare, my legs refusing to obey. I could feel its icy touch on my skin, a cold so intense it burned. I could hear the whispering, the low guttural growl that seemed to resonate from within the very walls of the house. I turned to the doors, the windows, but they were all locked, as if the house itself was refusing to let me leave. I pounded on them, screamed for help, but it was as if I was trapped in a soundproof box, my pleas for help swallowed by the silence. My breath came in short, ragged gasps, my heart threatening to burst out of my chest. I could feel the terror rising, a tidal wave threatening to crash over me and drown me in its depths. And then there it was. As I turned around, I saw it, a shadowy figure standing at the top of the stairs, its eyes glowing in the darkness. It was tall, ominous, a creature born from the deepest pits of hell. I could see its eyes, two glowing orbs of pure malice. I tried to scream, to run, but it was too late. The darkness was closing in, the world around me fading away, and then everything went black.